morning, class. In today's lesson, we're going to look at setting goals for healthy eating and physical activity. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn about goals and setting what's referred to as SMART goals. And so we're going to view this set of Google slides about goals and setting SMART goals, and that I've just posted here on Google Classroom. Goals and setting goals. What we like to refer to as SMART goals. And having SMART goals and setting SMART goals are what's going to allow you to eventually reach whatever the ultimate goal may be in terms of some kind of fitness level. So before we continue with this lesson, I would like to share with you a before and after photo of myself. So here is a before and after of yours truly. Yes, that is me. Okay, this is me before many years ago, and this photo I pulled out of one of my YouTube videos. So if you don't believe me, you can search for this video in my YouTube channel, and you'll find this video. I took that screenshot, and here is me in a classroom after having about a year after having gone from here to here, and having lost about 60 pounds. And I attribute that to making the SMART goals that I had done for myself. And that's what enabled me to go from this to something that I don't mind, I guess, looking at myself. I'm not as ashamed at looking at myself as I used to be when I looked like this. And again, for health reasons, when I was looking like this, I was sick often, headaches often. I didn't have very much energy, so there were a lot of struggles that I went through when I was carrying on all that extra weight, and eventually, as you get older, it really takes a toll on your body and mentally, that eventually I was like, I need to change something before one day a doctor tells me, okay, as of right now, you can't afford to continue to look like this for your own personal health reasons. So goals and setting goals. So using SMART goals. So goals and setting goals is learning goals of this lesson. Okay, so I will understand the importance of goals, right? Because let's face it, if you don't have goals for yourself, then just, your day to day just doesn't seem as appealing as it would be if you continue to set goals. So one thing to understand in life is that you should always be hungry to achieve more, right? You need to have that hunger to try to get out there and try to achieve as many possible goals. And even myself, as old as I am, I'm constantly setting goals for myself that I'm trying to reach. And when you're setting goals, what you need to understand is the difference between what's referred to as short-term goals and long-term goals. Because let's face it, if you look at that before and after picture, to reach that after picture, that was definitely had to be a long-term goal. And if it wasn't a long-term goal, if I looked at it as a short-term goal, I would have realized after about a month working out and eating healthy that I might not reach it, or I'm frustrated because I'm not losing the weight fast enough. And understand that kind of progression, that 60 pounds that I had lost in that before and after, understand that it took a while, and it took a lot of discipline on my part. But again, that discipline wasn't based on looking directly at that long-term goal. Right? The long-term goal was really to maybe lose about 10 to 15 pounds at the time. That was a long-term goal. I knew I wasn't going to achieve that overnight. But what happened was, after about a month that I had lost 10 pounds, I started thinking to myself, hey, so here's the idea of the importance of goals is like after I lost 10 pounds, like, let's lose two more. Right. And so eventually, after several weeks, I had lost 2 more pounds. And once I had reached that, continuous goals of let's lose 2 more pounds, let's lose 2 more pounds. And eventually, before I knew it, I had lost 20 pounds. And I wasn't really focused on trying to lose 20 pounds at the time. I was like, hey, I hit 10 pounds, and all of a sudden I had a hunger to try to lose 2 more pounds. Yeah, wrong choice of words, I guess. But the idea of having that goal to try to continue to lose without looking at trying to lose so much at once, because if you want to lose a lot of weight, and I don't recommend you trying to lose weight at your age. This is more like as you get older, and maybe now your goal should be trying to maybe stay fit, try to stay in shape, stay active. That's really should be the goals. Other goals might be things like trying to eat a little bit healthier. Maybe you don't eat as healthy as you should, and maybe decide, hey, you know what, instead of eating a lot of, I don't know, maybe fast food, start thinking about, okay, maybe I'm going to limit the amount of fast food I eat in a week, right? These are goals that you could be setting for yourself. So think about short-term goals, goals that we can achieve within maybe a week or two, and then long-term goals, goals that might take us a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years. Again, those long-term goals, yeah, you set those goals as something to work on, but in the meantime, always have the short-term goals that you try to achieve, because those ones are a little bit more manageable. And as you continue with these short-term goals, you'll eventually reach your long-term goals. So, and in continuing, I will be able to use SMART goal setting strategy to create my own healthy eating and physical activity goals. So, why goal setting is important? It's a dream until you write it down, and then it's a goal. I understand. And one thing I can't stress to students who have these aspirations, and I think of goals, and I think about dreams, and they're very much the same. Right? I have a dream that I'm going to, I don't know, become a doctor, or I'm going to become a lawyer, or I'm going to become a teacher. And that's great to have these dreams, but they don't become goals until you write them down. And even then, they're still not goals until you've actually figured out what exactly are you going to do as of right now to try to reach that. Okay? So, what can you do today to start preparing to reach that goal? So we think about some of those, careers that I listed out and go, they require a lot of schooling. So think of it, well, yeah, I've got to go to university, but hey, I'm only part of the transition program. And I'm just starting grade 9 in September. And it's like, well, let's not look at that goal. Let's look at, okay, now once we hit September, what are going to be my goals for September. But even before that, it's like, what are my goals now for this transition program? So what are the goals that I want to achieve? And those goals could end up being like, yeah, I want to make sure that my literacy mark is as high as I possibly can get it, my numeracy mark as high as I possibly can get it, my leadership mark as high as I can possibly get it, and my phys ed mark to be as high as I can possibly get it. I want to be at the best me that I can possibly be. Those are great goals, but how are you going to go about achieving them? Okay, so understand that goals push us forward. They bring out the best in us. They help us to believe in ourselves. They clarify our long-term vision. And that long-term vision might be to reach that career that we have in mind for ourselves. But to get there, we need to build a foundation. We need to build a foundation where we take time in our day to make sure that we study, that we get our work done, that we stay physically active, that we eat healthy, because all that together will help you achieve that goal. Make us accountable, right? You need to make yourself accountable, because all of a sudden it's like, well, you do poorly on a test and then you start blaming everyone except for yourself. Understand that some of the reasons for not achieving a goal could be something from within. And maybe, one of the things that students tell me is like, oh, but sir, I studied really hard. I go, well, okay, so explain to me what did you study hard? And it's like, well, Sunday night before Monday's test, I spent, a whole 5 hours studying. And it's like, okay, wait a second. What do you mean that you spent 5 hours studying? And they'll be like, well, I started reading my book at 5 o'clock in the evening, and I stopped studying at 10 o'clock at night. And it's like, okay, so you started studying from 5 o'clock in the evening till 10 o'clock at night, and that's 5 hours. But was it constant 5 hours, or were there moments where you pulled out your phone and started scrolling through Instagram? You got up, to grab a snack, and then you sat, eating a snack or eating dinner, doing something else other than studying, and then thinking, wait a second, why are you spending 5 hours to study? Why didn't you break that up in the days leading up to that Monday test? So understand that, again, we need to make ourselves accountable for why sometimes we don't reach our goals. And understand that sometimes we need to stop blaming others and start to realize, okay, so start digging deep and start thinking from within. What did I do that may have negatively impacted my ability to reach a specific goal? Setting goals gives us motivation. It motivates us. It makes us wake up in the morning to, to do, to live our life. And that's the one thing, as an adult, I set goals for myself. I set fitness goals. I set family goals. I set career goals that I want to achieve. And because that's what's going to get me to wake up in the morning. If I wake up in the morning and I'm like thinking I don't set a goal for myself, then it's like, well, what's the point of getting up out of bed? Right. And that's one of the reasons why I wake up early in the morning. I work out, because that's my goal. My goal is to try to stay as healthy as I possibly can. I'm constantly trying to improve who I am. I'm not trying to meet a look or a fitness level that matches somebody else. I'm looking at myself in the mirror, and I'm looking and saying, how can I make me better today than I was yesterday? And that's the goal. And you write these things down, and you start thinking, okay, how am I going to make me better today than I was yesterday? And part of that plan was to set my alarm early enough and make working out a priority. Make it a priority, like going to school, going to work. Make eating healthy and a priority. And how am I going to do that? Well, I need to make sure that I plan ahead what I'm going to eat. So all these things, right, these are part of that goal setting, and understanding that if I want to be a better me today than I was yesterday, what can I do differently? How can I continue to plan ahead to get myself to where I'd like to be? And then finally, it helps us to live our life to the fullest, because if you're healthy, you've got a good frame of mind, your mental health is very strong, and all of a sudden it helps us see clearly the things we want out of life. So, short-term versus long-term goals. Short-term goals that will take us less than 12 months to achieve. I will cut back on eating junk food once a week. Look at that. Something as simple as that, okay, can be considered a short-term goal, and something as simple as that can definitely be doable. Once a week, cut it down, especially if you eat on multiple occasions. Long-term goals are goals that will take longer than 12 months to achieve. I want to be able to run a full marathon by grade 12. You're definitely not going to do that. I have students who say, oh, sir, I'm going to study really hard in my grade 12 year. If you don't build a foundation to study, to sit down, do your homework, read the material, go online to find resources to help you better understand stuff. Don't expect that grade 12 comes around and you're going to just, flip a switch and be able to do that. It takes a while. You got to build to that. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to be able to study 24/7 come grade 12. If you can't do it now, you've got to build to that. You're not going to have the stamina. Think about if you've done any of my workouts and you've realized, hey, I'm getting tired after the second set, and that third set becomes really difficult. Understand that when I was going through that weight loss, yeah, those first couple of sets were very difficult. I think about the amount of weight that I grew to be able to lift, the endurance I built for myself, was just unbelievable where it is now in comparison. Well, let's not say now because we've been on lockdown, and so I've had a makeshift gym in my basement. But anyhow, I still tried to make things work, even though the situation that we're in with this pandemic. I'm trying to still reach those goals and still try to make goals for myself, but now I have to modify my goals with what I am, with what I have around me. So the resources that I'm able to reach and to actually use. So moving on. Smart goal setting. When setting goals, the most effective method is to create SMART goals. And so, the letters SMART stand for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time bound. Okay, so that's what the letters for SMART goals stand for: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time bound. So, specific, do set real numbers with real deadlines. Don't say, I want more visitors, let's say, to come and let's say to my channel or to come to my Instagram page. What are you going to do? Set a real number, real deadline. So I think about some of mine was, okay, let me find out what my strengths were at the gym. So when I picked up a dumbbell, I saw what can I do, making sure that I was doing it correctly. And eventually I was like, okay. And one of the things that I tell students, and when I teach the grade 12 personal fitness course, I tell the students, just tiny increments. I have students who will tell me, oh, I'm trying to work on my bench press. I'm trying to work on my bicep curl. I'm trying to work on my triceps. I'm trying to work my legs. And I tell them, I go, okay, figure out what your strength is. See that you can hit 10 repetitions, 12 repetitions, and see that you can continue to do that for multiple sets throughout a week. And then the following week, just increase the weight by 2.5 pounds, 5 pounds, whatever, but just in incremental. So just tiny little added weight. If you're on a treadmill or if you go running and you track it on your phone and you go, okay, it took me however long it took me to do 1 kilometer, I'm going to see if I can cut that short by an additional 15 seconds. Right? 15 seconds might not seem like much, but it really can really kick your butt if you're not prepared. And sometimes you need to push yourself past that pain, right? Past that struggle. You're looking at it and you're kind of bored. And you're like, I'm feeling tired. And sometimes you just need to push yourself just a little bit, but push yourself to the point that you're not going to be sick. You're not going to be throwing up after the workout. If you're feeling lightheaded, you're feeling dizzy, you definitely want to stop. You don't want to push to try to reach whatever that number. Remember that you could reach that number at a later date. Is it measurable? Do make sure your goal is trackable. Okay, so one thing that I do is I actually journal. So I journal what I do when I go to the gym. So I keep track of the amount of weight that I lift, let's say the level that I put a treadmill on, how long I'll go on a treadmill for, or on a bike, on a stationary bike, or on the rowing machine. So I measure all that. So I track all that down, because what happens is, one week I'll realize I feel very strong and feel very, very good. And then the following week, all of a sudden, I'm looking at my numbers from last week, and I'm like, wait a second, my numbers this week are not matching. Right? I'm finding that I feel weaker today. So then I start to reflect on, what did I do? What did I do? Let's say last night, maybe, oh, well, my little one, she, kept me up a lot later, and maybe I was a lot tired. I did, and I look, I go, oh, was yesterday a cheat meal day? And little things like that. I go, okay, maybe these are the reasons as to why. So I'm trying to find my ways in which to make myself accountable for why I'm not reaching the goals or reaching the numbers that I'm documenting. So the A is for attainable. Work towards a goal that is challenging but possible. Okay, you're not going to go in there and say, okay, I'm hoping to bench press 330 pounds. Meanwhile, you're like, you can barely bench 20 pounds. That's definitely not attainable as a short-term goal. Okay, so you realize, hey, I can bench press maybe 10 pounds. I can bench press 20 pounds. Go, okay, so this week I'm going to work on that, and then maybe next week I'm going to try to increase the weight by about 5 pounds or by 2.5 pounds, just so I can at least slowly build that strength. Realistic. Is your goal realistic? Be honest with yourself. You know what you are and your team are capable of. One thing for myself, because of my genetics, my body frame, I can never be a heavyweight bodybuilder. So to reach that is definitely not a realistic goal. So that is not going to be a goal that's in my mind where I'm thinking of trying to reach, because I understand that my body frame, as what is referred to as an ectomorph, will not reach that size, because that size requires being an endomorph or even a mesomorph genetic body frame. And don't worry about those terms. You'll eventually learn those in the later years of phys ed courses. And then finally, the time bound. Give yourself a deadline. Okay, so, and again, going back to that example of the bench press, you're bench pressing 10, 20 pounds, and yeah, I've got a timeline. By the end of the month, I'm going to bench press 300 pounds. It's not going to happen. Okay, so give yourself a timeline. Go, hey, you know what, I want to lose, let's say, 10 pounds. Okay, maybe 2 months. Give yourselves 2 months where all you got to do is make tiny little changes to your diet, incorporate a little bit of physical activity from day to day, and eventually you'll be able to reach that goal. So you're giving yourself a decent timeline. Giving yourself timelines like, okay, in 10 years, I'm hoping to reach that. So easy to kind of lose sight of those 10 years, because in 10 years, there's a lot about you that's going to change. And the one thing I've noticed is every 10 years that I've kind of grown, I change. I'm constantly changing my mindset. The things that that interest me when I was a lot younger aren't the same as they are today. So, SMART criteria, going back to the letters that spell out SMART. So, specific, what will be accomplished, and what actions will you take? So, these are questions you want to ask yourself, and you want to write these down. Now, is it measurable? What data will measure this goal of yours? So how much, how well, right? Achievable. Is the goal doable? Do you think you can reach that goal? And do you have the necessary skills and resources to reach that goal? Right? One thing I joke around with my students is, I would love to be able to dunk a basketball. I will never be able to dunk a basketball because genetically my muscles cannot make me jump that high. I don't have those kinds of muscles in my leg, because even though I've got a height that, there have been others my height who've been able to dunk, I can't. And especially at my age, it is not going to happen. So this is definitely not a goal that is doable for me. Relevant. So how does the goal align with broader goals? Why is the result important to you? So you need to understand that here's a goal. Is this your goal, first of all? And why is it important to you? What is it going to be about reaching that goal? And that goal is going to be, yeah, I want fame, I want fortune. Like, we might not really work that hard for it. You got to really love what it is that you want to be doing, because that's what's going to set you your mind straight, and know that this is the route that I'm going to take, because this is really what it is that I want. And then finally, time bound. What is the time frame for accomplishing this goal? So you got to start thinking, here it is. And then when you write this down and you realize, hey, after 2 years, I didn't reach this goal, but are you close? You can't look at it as a failure. You got to look at it as, okay, I'm really, really close to reaching that goal. Maybe I need to give myself 6 more months. Maybe I need to give myself 1 more year to reach that goal. So in the meantime, start creating some more smaller goals along the way to help you get to that larger goal. So there you have it. Hopefully this lesson kind of helped you kind of figure out. I know we started talking about fitness levels, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's got to be fitness levels. I did talk about careers and just little things, like think about some of the goals that you might want for yourself with regards to your schooling, right? And how you're going to achieve it. Understand that successful people out there, they write this stuff down. So they will journal this stuff. They will write this stuff down because they want to be able to document what's worked, what hasn't worked, right? If we just document it in here, think about how many times you've forgotten stuff. I think about how easy I forget things. And so if I write things down, it's a lot less likely that I'm going to forget it, because I can read it and be like, oh yeah, I do remember that. So write this down. Like I tell my students when they're working out, at the gym, because my personal fitness course, we actually go to an outside gym and we work out. This past year we did, we were at Planet Fitness. And so I would ask the students, okay, so when you were using the lat pull down machine, what weight were you using? And they'll be like, oh, I think it was this or maybe that. I'm like, okay, but you see what I'm saying? Like, you don't have that journal, and you need that journal so you can look and say specifically, yes, I was pulling 50 pounds or pulling 60 pounds. How many times did you do it? And I was like, oh, maybe I did it 10 times. Like, okay, but were you tired? Could you have done an 11th? Could you have done a 12th? Right? Again, writing this down allows you to visualize it and see it and be like, oh my goodness, I did. I was able to push myself for that extra repetition, that second repetition. So the same thing applies to just about anything, any type of goal setting. If you write this down, that's going to be part of the success that you're going to have for yourself. Remember, if it's in here, it's just a dream. If you write it down and you look at it and you start brainstorming, how do I get there? Then that's when that dream becomes the goal. Remember, that dream is just a dream until you write it down and start planning how and what do I need to do to reach what it is that I really, really want for myself. Because remember, you always want to have that hunger to be a better you today than you were yesterday. And when tomorrow comes, you want to be a better you tomorrow than you were today. I hope you liked this video. If you did, do not be shy to hit that thumbs up button. And while you're clicking the thumbs up, click on that subscribe to stay tuned to my new videos. Thanks for watching.